Life is not a spectator sport. It's something you get involved with. I can't imagine doing anything 99%. When I was 10 years old, I wrote to Walt Disney, fascinated by these shows on how animation was done, and I said that I was going to do animation. I was going to have an animation company, and I was going to call it Disada. The first 3 letters of his last name and the first 3 letters of my last name. So he wrote back, and it was a very encouraging letter for a 10-year-old. Stick with it, it's a great thing to do. And call it Disada, and thank you for the top billing. I like good animation. I don't care if it's hand-drawn or computer. If it's got a good story, good characters, good concept, is well designed and developed, that's all that I'm looking for. And that's all that we should be striving for. And not letting effects or funny lines or whatever carry it. The whole should be greater than the sum of its parts. This one here is the very first book done on animation, called Animated Cartoons, and it's the book from the silent era that Walt Disney studied as a young man. The techniques are, of course, a little passé today, but they certainly must have inspired him to do his work. The best book ever on animation has to be this one, actually. By Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, called Disney Animation, The Illusion of Life. People call this the Animation Bible, and I know why they would, because it just has everything that they learned in a lifetime of doing top animation, and what makes good animation. And it especially teaches you how an animator thinks. So many books are what they do. This one is how you think the process through. And that's invaluable for new people. We were the first to do a number of different things in Canada. And one of the things we wanted to do was a comic strip, like the Americans had. We have original comic strip art as well. This is one we did years ago, called Winnie Witch and the Giant Potato. It was the very first Canadian comic strip to be both a daily black and white and a color weekend. These are some of the dailies, for example. And these are the color separations that we would get back from the U.S., where all the comic strips, the Peanuts and everything else, were done. The comic strip was the most fun, even though it was a lot of work, of course. And anything to do with Winnie, and especially Potato, was just fun to work at, because that was ours. It wasn't a pre-existing character we had to be faithful to. We could determine and develop the characters as we wanted. And we kept finding new things about them the more we worked with them.
And how long did it go on for?
A couple of years. And then the syndicate went under, and so did the strip.
My, what a long face. Well, I know just the thing for that. Here. Well, come on, take it.
Well, none of these were made to be preserved. I think just about everything was transitory. They were made for a specific use for a short period of time, and then probably be thrown away. I remember Chuck Jones telling me we thought these cartoons had a shelf life of about two weeks to a month, and then no one would ever see them again. And of course we know today how wrong he was. happily. One of the best days of my life was to go to the Disney Animation Research Library and actually ask for and get the drawings of Lady and the Tramp eating the spaghetti dinner. This is an icon of animation, but I was able to actually see Frank Thomas's actual drawings with all the erasures and the drawing and I could see what I'd never seen on the film, why it was such a great scene and how the animation was done so sincerely that you believed in this absurd things of dogs eating spaghetti. And it just happened that that night we were having supper with him and his wife, and Ollie and his wife, and I just couldn't bring myself to tell him that I'd seen his drawings that day because I didn't know if I'd be able to hold it together. It was so beautiful, so meaningful. Anything that came into my hands about movies or animation pretty well stayed in my hands. I mean, collection or accumulation, sometimes I wonder. Movie posters, press books, lobby cards, children's books, comic books, magazines, programs, figurines, toys, coloring books, biographies, books on animation, and films themselves. I know we have 75,000 pieces just of original animation art of what we've gone through. There's more. So we have the original drawings from Plain Crazy, Steamboat Willie, a lot of other early Mickey Mouses, Snow White, and Pinocchio, and Fantasia, and Bambi. And the most powerful animation ever done, Vladimir Titel's Devil in Fantasia. I think that people would want to have, say, animation art because it reminds them of a favorite film, just like they have a poster. Poster's not the movie, but it reminds them of the movie. It reminds them of good times seeing that movie or whatever. And it makes an emotional bond with them, or is nostalgic. What we want to do is to put on a show where all this stuff will be for sale to the fans. But more than that, have a show. Have guests, have speakers, have screenings, have things that you would hope to see in an animation and movie fan show.
What are the most valuable pieces that you have?
I think in all ways it would be the original animation art. To have the actual drawings of Disney and other classics is the touchstone of animation. It's the guts of the thing. It's the heart of the thing. It's what it's all about. It starts with that. It starts with a blank piece of paper and a pencil. What could be more creative than a blank piece of paper and a pencil? You can do anything. Actually, I should have started a museum or something. Which I guess I did, except formally.